Sometimes people will say that faith is like walking in the darkness. It's a blind leap, stepping out somewhere into a dark unknown, trying to find your way. They'll say that faith is like having some sort of raw trust that God is real. It's a trust fall or a leap into the darkness. But can that be right? Does a God who is supposedly good and loving and caring just want you to go through life blindly believing that he's real so that somehow he can just reward you for, taking a risk? Is that what faith is? Or rather, isn't faith something more like a light? When you think about it, the world itself is what's dark. There's the darkness of suffering, there's a darkness of confusion, chaos, war. There are people who suffer everywhere, and they're confused about all sorts of things. They're confused about their purpose in life, what will make them happy, why their friendships are so difficult. And in this dark world, people suffer from a lack of food, shelter. They suffer from, diseases and illnesses. We all know someone who's sick or anxious or suffering, depressed, lonely. Maybe that person is even you sometimes. By itself, the world is something like a dark, empty wasteland full of traps and pitfalls without any real clear path forward. And so we say to ourselves, we need a light. That's what faith is. Imagine you're in a building, a gymnasium maybe, the power goes out, and you need to get across the gym. I don't know if this is crazy, but imagine that the gym has got all sorts of traps on it, and it's perfectly dark in there, and you're trying to cross to the other side to get out. I suppose you could just, take your chances and run for it. Yeah, well, good luck, right? Or you could use a flashlight. This is what we really mean when we talk about faith. Psalm 119 says, "Lord, your word is a lamp for my feet and a light for my path." So faith isn't a blind leap into the darkness, but it's a light that actually guides you through the darkness. Faith tells you all sorts of things that you need to know in order to have a meaningful life. Faith tells you that you're not alone. You have a purpose, you have hope, you will not always be suffering. Faith tells you that God is real, that he cares about you, that he died for you, and that you can have a friendship with him, yes, even now. Faith tells you everything you need to know how to have a meaningful life so you can get to heaven, so you can be perfectly happy with God forever. And so all sorts of people begin to ask you, yeah, that sounds great, that sounds nice, but how do you know that all this faith stuff is real? And the answer is simple. It's because God himself told us it is. It's not like some random guy, Larry, woke up one day and said, hey, I'm going to start telling everybody they need to trust in this invisible God figure in order to be happy. In reality, God himself became a man, Jesus. And he did the only thing that God himself could do. He rose from the dead, and he did all sorts of other things that only God could do. He raised other people from the dead. He healed people who were blind, who were deaf. He calmed storms. And then all sorts of people saw these things. And they were credible people, and they told their friends. And those people told their friends, who told their friends, who told their friends, who told you. And nobody who was there and saw these things denied that they happened. And that same Jesus who did all these things, he's the one who tells you your faith is real. So how do we know that faith is real? Because God himself told us. Now, of course, having faith still does involve trusting other people. When I was 3 years old, I started to figure out and realize that my birthday was December 7th. Now, the reason I came to know this is because my parents told me, and I suppose they could have been lying to me, they could have been deceiving me. Maybe I was born on December 10th. But throughout my whole life, I've kind of come to believe that my parents are actually pretty reliable people. And so I've actually always believed that my birthday was, in fact, December 7th. This isn't just like some blind leap of faith. It's a faith founded on some pretty good, reliable evidence. The word of my parents. So it is with faith in God. It's not a blind act of trust. It's a trusting and reliable source. And I always want you to remember that. Faith is not something we do randomly, but it's always based on good, clear evidence that what God is promising is true. Faith is a light in a very dark world, and Jesus said, "I'm the light of the world. Whoever follows me will not walk in the darkness, but will have the light of life."